Well, we could have a lot to get through tonight in one sense, because I want to just wrap up one or two items with the pannier tank, and then either John will do a presentation or we'll play a pre-recorded video. Depends on how he feels when we get to that stage. And then we're going to look at some more with Chitterbox in particular on supports on resin printing, which some people have been asking for. So I'll share my screen. I'm not going to go into a great detail tonight. We've done the top and the sides, and these little steps on the side are just basically choosing this side for a sketch and just drawing them in little blocks where they step up and so forth, and on the front. But what I'm going to look at tonight is this toolbox, which appears on both sides of the GWR tank, and I'm going to go into my usual thing of creating it from one sketch only, which is what we've done with the other parts of it as well. So let's move over to that. Let's get shot of that a minute so we got a bit more screen space. And this is the toolbox that I'm going to just create, and hopefully it may show you a few extra bits that you can use on designs that you're doing. So I'm going to roll the timeline back, and we'll go through the timeline rather than me actually draw everything, because most of you know how to draw now in that sense. So we'll go back to the sketch, and that's the sketch that I produced for this. So we've got the main boxes from this inner square, which is now blanked. The outer one is for the ribbon on where the lid joins the base, and we've got squares at the side here for the hinges, and also for the lock here, and for the GWR, which I'll emboss on the top, which might be of interest to some of you. So the first stage that I'm doing, I'm hoping I'm going to press these buttons the right way round this time, is the first thing we do, I'll leave the sketch on. You can see what I've done. I've chosen the inner rectangle, and I've extruded it symmetrically, top and bottom. So it's that center rectangle, and it's been extruded symmetrically top and bottom by 2 millimeters to give me a 4 millimeter high toolbox. Next stage then was to extrude out exactly the same way the beading that forms the beading on the bottom of the bottom half and on the bottom of the top half. Again, it's been extruded both ways. Let's just have a look at that. You can see there it's symmetrical, and it's 0.2 millimeters. Now, a point on sizes. I'm working on 00 gauge, and also I think I've said on previous occasions, when you design something to a size, bear in mind how big it's going to end up being printed and exactly what detail you want shown. There's no point in doing detail on fusion at 0.04 or 0.03 millimeters if, when it's print, even if your printer can do it, that you will need a magnifying glass to see it. No point at all in my view. So bear that one in mind, and I'll explain that a bit more as we go through elsewhere. So we've extruded that up. So that gives us, let me just turn off the sketch. That gives us our basic box, as you can see there. This is the top half and the bottom half, and you'll see the join line would be through the middle of here, because we got this lip on both the bottom of the top and the top of the bottom. So there we go, and then the next stage is to put a chamfer on that lip, and that is quite easily done, literally by going through. Let's put the sketches back on again, take off the body, or no, put the body on, and you're just holding the key down, holding the shift key down to select all the edges that you want to put a chamfer on. It's no more difficult than that. And then we extrude the hinges. Now, you might say, if I go back one, well, you can't see where they are, and if we put them on a sketch, you can't really get hold of them. So the answer to that one is to switch off the bodies, and then you can highlight the hinge, both of them. You have to do it in this way, because if I didn't have these blue lines, profile lines there and there, then when I come to extrude this lip that went round, it would also include that rectangle. So you need to separate them out. And so therefore the line there and the line there are essential. So as I say, you highlight all four of them, holding the shift key down to select them, and then you can extrude them. Now you can start extruding, but you'll get a warning coming up. The object that you're creating is not visible. Well, we know that because we got bodies turned off. But once you've got to this stage of extruding, then you can switch the bodies back on again and see exactly what it is you're doing. That's in cut mode at the moment, so I'll cancel that and we'll go back so you can see. And we move forward. So what I've done there, turn off the sketches, is extrude up equally both ways, and I extrude it up by 1 millimeter. And that gives us our two hinges. Now, you can put rivets on, but you're not going to see them, so there's no point in my view. If you're doing O gauge or something else, different matter altogether. And then the next stage would be to chamfer them, and I've put them black so you can see them. So they look a little bit like a hinge. By the time that's printed out, if I measure that, for example, that's 1 millimeter, a millimeter square there. So that degree of detail I find on a resin print on OO gauge is fine. And by the time you've painted it, etc. The next stage then is going to be the front one, which is there. Again, same situation, turn the bodies off, turn the sketches on. You're highlighting both of them. And if I go on there and edit the feature, I'm doing two sides this time. Two sides is not the same as symmetrical. Symmetric is when you pull one side and the other side mirrors it. I'm doing two sides, which enables me to extrude both sides separately. And you can see there on my measurements that the top one's been extruded 0.5 millimeter and the bottom one 1 millimeter. And then the next stage is like we done on the hinges, put a curve on it to make it look tidy, as it were. Okay, now the next stage now I want to do is to curve all the edges. So again, you go around and you select all the edges with the shift key down and you put a chamfer on them. Now the ones you don't do at the moment, I've just done the bottom one. See, they're all there on the bottom one. I haven't done the top yet. And that's the other side, the bottom there. So you can see the bottom half of the box is done. The top half box is not done yet because I want to put a greater chamfer on this front edge. Like so. So I put my large chamfer on the front edge first. If I'd have put the small chamfers all round, I couldn't have gone at this edge to do a large one. Having got the large one on, I can now select and go around and add small ones on all of them. I'll just go back one and show you how that works. So you go into the fillet, you click the fillet, which goes all the way round now, and you add your chamfer in, whatever you want it to be. And then you go to the back edge as well, and there we are with a nice rounded box. Now what I've thrown in on this one is to put the GWR on top, just to show you a bit of text embossing and how we got to that, because as I said, I only had one sketch. Yes, true, you could highlight this face and put another sketch on this one and extrude out, but I kept it to one sketch. So let's go back and look at the sketch there. So there's the GWR. excuse me, bit of air in you. And then when the GWR is on there, what we do, get the bodies back on. I've left a sketch on now so you can see where the GWR is in the bottom. What I'm doing is embossing it. So I'm using the emboss command where I've highlighted the GWR, but to do that, you have to switch off the bodies to get at it. So you can go in there, select that profile, switch the bodies back on again. Then on the faces, select the face that you want, which is the top face. And then the amount of extrusion, which I've done at 0.1 millimeters. And that's what you end up with. Now I've coloured it in gold just to make it look pretty and for you to see what's going on. So you can see how that's been done from one sketch. Hopefully things like, if you've got a big curve like this, do that first before you do the edges. And as I say, one sketch has produced all of it. Body's off, which is that sketch. You can add as much detail as you want. Now, if I was to look at the body, and let's suppose I turn this, you know, I wanted to put detail on the hinge, on the clasp rather. I could certainly, you know, put a bit of detail on here, but bear in mind whether or not it's going to show on your finished job. On end gauge, I would think it's not worth a bother. On 00 gauge, depends where the article is going. In this case, it's going on underneath the boiler Veloco, which is not going to be that visible. So why waste time doing a ton of detail on it? You can do, I don't.